All right, good evening. This is Leon Johnson from Informal Conversations. Welcome to episode 4. We have a special one for you today. First, I want to introduce my beautiful guests. First, we have someone who's been on 2 of the 3 podcasts so far, Mr. Stanley Johnson. How you doing, Stanley?
I'm pretty good, sir. How about yourself?
I'm great. And as you can see, the beautiful woman beside him is his beautiful wife, Dr. Sylvia Johnson. How you doing, Syl?
Doing well, thank you.
Awesome. Before we get started, I just want to kind of give a formal introduction to who we're going to be interviewing today. So first, I said we have Stanley Johnson. Stanley is a personal injury lawyer. He's been licensed in the state of Florida for the last 5 years. And Dr. Sylvia Johnson, she's a dual board certified in adult and child and adolescent psychiatry and has extensive experience in treating mental health conditions. She served as a psychiatrist in the Army for 9 years and is a former chief of behavioral health at Fort Hood, where she supervised over 300 psychiatrists, sociologists, and therapists. That's a mouthful. So thank you for your service also, Sil.
And she's the proud owner. I don't know if you said she's the proud owner of Lake Nona Behavioral Health Services, who service the Orlando community.
Thank you for reminding me about that. Sorry about that.
A mother of 4.
And mother of 4.
Yeah. So the reason why we're going to talk to you guys today is because you have decided to embark on a new journey that you wanted to chronicle, and that journey is becoming expats. And first, let's check in with you. How are you guys doing with that process?
We're doing great.
Great.
Need to. Well, I don't know about others, but for me, expat was a new term that I learned once we started to embark on this journey. So expat is short for expatriate. So someone who, for our country, the United States, lives outside the United States, or you could be an expat from another country, of course, but just living outside of your country of origin. And so we started talking about it, I guess it was last November.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very excited. Stan was hesitantly excited. We called the children and said, hey guys, what do you think about moving to another country, living in another country? And we pretty much got all thumbs down, which really took the wind out of his sails. And but I felt even more resolved because I felt like I want my children to have adventurous spirits and to be able to embrace new opportunities. And so I kind of doubled down and started doing research, and then it's just been kind of a whirlwind of a process since then.
But as of right now, I mean, it's going great. We're currently in mandatory managed isolation in New Zealand and Auckland area, and the treatment once we got off the plane was second to none. I mean, and the organization that they have in this country dealing with the pandemic is beyond measure. So I'm kind of excited. It took me a while, like she said, for me to even consider a move outside of the United States. But the more research that I've done, and the more I've talked to other individuals who have done it, it's been a remarkable experience thus far. Once again, we're only in the first
on
week.
Your show, Leon, because I'm always kind of in the background somewhere listening since, I guess, March, about 7 months now. We've all been isolating at home. And so whenever he's talking to you guys on the podcast,
for the
happy hours, I overhear some of the conversations, and some of the same challenges that he would present to me when we were having discussions about the advantages or disadvantages of moving overseas were some of the very same things that some of your guests on the show or some of your friends have brought up to him. And I started to see a shift over time where his views started to align with my views and trying to help educate others on the possibilities that exist. And he's like, yes.
Oh, so you're just going to take all the credit.
Yes.
You're going to take all the credit. Okay.
Happy wife, happy life, brother.
Hey, exactly.
All right, so there's a bunch of things that you guys touched on that we're going to kind of like walk through as we go forward. But let's step back and what started the thought process? Like, what started the thought process, and then walk us through the process of moving, or even having the idea of moving. Like, was there an event that happened that was like, you know what, we need to roll out, or was it just like, you know what, this is a good opportunity, we're already locked up, we can just go somewhere else and try it out for a little while? Like, was it a specific event?
To be honest, the initial event that started, it wasn't with me, but I think that really triggered her into wanting to do something was in November 2016 when Trump got elected. You know, some of the rhetoric and stuff that we saw, and kind of like the feel, the way the nation was going, it kind of scared her. You know, I think by February 2017, we had passports for all of our children.
Yeah.
So
I was pregnant with our youngest child at the time. So Samaya is now 3. She'll be 4 in December.
She was born in December 2016.
So I was about 9 months pregnant when the election took place in 2016. And I cried the whole night. I was just so upset, so distraught. I couldn't understand. It's not just Trump himself. He's just one person.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fact that so many people, enough people supported him to where he was able to gain enough electoral votes to win. And then fast forward to November of this past year, November 2019, you're watching a movie, which, it had its good points. What's the
Queen and Slim?
Queen and Slim.
Queen and Slim.
And, overall it was a decent movie, but it must have struck something within me, because the next morning I woke up and that's when I had the idea, like, let's look into living in another country. And I think for me, it was really sparked by fear. So I've referenced several times now that we're parents and we have 4 children, and our sons are 13 and 11. And then our daughters, one just turned 9 and the other is 3. But I was really worried that my boys are about to go through puberty. And we know in the US, as they make that transition from boyhood to men, that the perception of them changes. So they go from being, oh, they're so cute, look at the little black boy, to clutching the pearls and grabbing the purse and crossing the street. And I don't want my sons to face that type of treatment or potential discrimination in the workforce or police brutality, or really just in general. America is a pretty violent country, unfortunately. Statistics show that we are number 128 out of the 165 countries in the United States in terms of safety. And that's a lot to do with our very lenient gun laws and the high homicide rate. We have 300,000 homicides a year in the United States, and then other violent crimes as well. And so for all of these reasons, I started thinking, maybe there's no perfect place out there, but there are probably some places better than here. And that's where I really wanted to try to explore and see what our options were, with me being a physician, Stan being an attorney, and putting a lot of years and hard work and blood, sweat, and tears into getting those degrees, but then also wanting to have a good quality of life and healthy lives for our children. And not just their physical safety, but we're looking out for their mental health and well-being as well. So as you referenced, I am a child and adolescent psychiatrist, and we know that racism has an impact, not just on the oppressed groups, but on the oppressors as well. And it's not a good impact. It contributes to higher rates of chronic illness, such as diabetes, cancer, and heart disease, as well as higher rates of mental illness. And we want them to have a sense of pride. We want them to feel confident in who they are and how God created them. And we wanted them to learn the importance of community, not just all about self and individualism, but how to be respectful and kind and caring and neighborly and loving of all people.
Awesome. Was New Zealand your first choice? Were there any other countries that were
So,
ahead or below, and you.
so what she did, first of all, she is a list maker. So, all the countries come to me, what she asked me, what countries would I think about living in. At this point, she referenced November. I definitely wasn't aboard. I mean, as far as relocating and living abroad, I was always open to purchasing property. I love to go to different countries and maybe purchasing property in different countries or a different country, so we can go over there during the summertime and just experience the culture that way, as opposed to just picking up, relocating, and leaving the country. So we started looking at what was the safest countries in the world, which was like Iceland, New Zealand, Singapore. I didn't even know where New Zealand was in November. Wasn't sure where it was located on the map. Iceland had the word ice in it. I'm not going. It's too cold. So we started looking at Singapore. As I talking to you, as far as your experience with Singapore, that kind of intrigued Singapore to the top of the list. We had actually bought tickets to go to Spain in last January. But we started doing a little research, not to knock Spain because we don't know, we haven't been there, but we got a little bit of feedback of how there are some biases in Spain. We were like, well, let's not do Spain first. And since it was just going to be me and her, Spain is an easy transition or easy travel if we take the kids, as opposed to Singapore. So we're like, look, if we're going to pay that ticket for Singapore, I'd rather pay for just me and her to go try out Singapore, just 2 tickets instead of 6. So that's when we went to Singapore, and Singapore was our first choice or first place that we went as far as.
And we actually looked to travel to New Zealand too, but it was going to be maybe $800 more per ticket. It was close to $2,000 round trip from Florida to New Zealand.
I thought you meant from Singapore to New Zealand, because that's a long haul.
No.
I think it's over 8 hours or 10 hours just to go from Singapore to Australia, and you got to fly over the entire continent. That's a long haul.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a trip. So I don't know exactly how far from Singapore, but I know that was another consideration too, that we only had 7 days. Okay, my mom and dad agreed to watch the children, but there was a time limit. Like a full 24 hours to get there, full 24 hours to get back. That was going to take
us too much time.
But really, where we came with our original list was talking with others who had traveled abroad or had lived abroad. So speaking with you, and you shared with us your insights on Singapore.
On expat
and then there's
groups.
A couple that we befriended during my time in the military. So the husband is a child psychiatrist as well, and the wife is a teacher, and they've lived all over the world. They currently live in South Korea. So I'm give a shout out to Kevin and Erica. Hey, and they pretty much gave us a list of their top recommendations. They've visited, I want to say, about 60 countries in the world, and so in both of their top 3, New Zealand was listed. I want to say Portugal was also there, and Singapore, Germany. These were all other countries that were highly recommended. So that kind of helped us narrow down our scope and really start doing some research on those areas. Costa Rica wasn't on their list, but it was on
my list. It was on my list. It was an easy flight, and it was tropical, and we weren't too far from the family. Good cost of living. So that was on my list, Costa Rica, because like I said, I wasn't too keen on leaving anyway. And if I did go anywhere, I like to be able to get back quickly, But and that's kind of what started our journey and started our quest for knowledge and just seeking additional information to help us determine if this is something that we really wanted to do. And as I said, and January was a pretty, we traveled a lot. We did a cruise. We went to Grand Cayman Islands, went to Jamaica in the beginning of January with the family. And then we went to Singapore like a week later after that. And we really enjoyed Singapore, but it was just something missing as far as relocating there. Beautiful country, clean country, safe. It was just, I don't know if it was the connection or something, but it was just something missing.
I think it was 2 things. So primarily was that the country prides itself on being a meritocracy. So this would be a country that people are able to attain higher socioeconomic status or positions in government based on their merit, based on their abilities. But when we went to visit there, we found that it was really divided on color lines again, that predominantly Chinese ancestry were people in positions of power in the government, and the people that we saw doing construction or other blue collar jobs were either the native Singaporeans or Malay or Indian origin. And so we thought, well, we know that intelligence and drive and ability to achieve is not something that's tied to race or to one's skin color. This is something that is completely independent of those physical characteristics. And so if you truly have a meritocracy, you would see much more diversity throughout. And so that was pretty disappointing to me. And then also they have the hawker centers there. Yeah. And the hawker centers, they have great food, delicious food. Wonderful. You order your food at these stalls, and then there's a common eating area in the center. And it's so crowded because the food is so great that you will oftentimes have people seated at the table who don't know each other. So we sat at a table with two individuals who were there separately who didn't know each other, and there was no conversation. They didn't converse with each other. They didn't converse with us. Yeah. It was just looking at their cell phone, eating their food, and then about their business. It's like a disconnect. Yeah, so we thought it would be harder to establish friendships and relationships there, and we really want to be in a place where we can feel that we have a connection with others in the community.
Now here, when you get into the community, that's when people start reaching out to you a little bit more and building those relationships. Once again, we're just looking at the snapshot of the country when we went there. It was just something that it just didn't, something there that didn't like really connect with us, even though we loved it. And then I'll go back to visit and spend time there. But as far as living there, it just was something was missing as far as what we were looking for. Now, not to say it's not for anybody else, but just what we were looking for. We didn't see it. We didn't feel it when we were there. So.
And interesting enough, while we were there, is middle of January is for our anniversary, and also going to seek another country to possibly move to. Was when we first heard about coronavirus. So first they were just coming out in Wuhan, China. And I remember when we were flying home, I'm like, oh man, please don't let us catch this coronavirus and take it home. The lady was coughing behind us. Yes, she was.
Oh no, but the air on the airplane is circulated, every couple of minutes. You'll be all right.
No.
I was just being sarcastic there, That's all you keep hearing, right? The air circulated every 3 seconds.
Yeah, well, back then, of course, nobody was masking or anything. It was still very brand new, but we've been following it in the news since January.
Since January, yep.
How was the visa process to get a visa to get into New Zealand? Is there specific requirements to be able to get into the country?
It was pretty complicated. So there's an extra layer of complexity because of the pandemic. So right now, New Zealand's borders are closed to most people. There are a few exemptions. So for example, if you are a New Zealand citizen, or maybe if you're a spouse or a dependent child of a New Zealand citizen, and the way that we were able to get into the country was as a critical healthcare worker. So they do have a physician shortage, and there's a worldwide shortage of the specialty of psychiatrists particularly. And so the first step was to apply for a job. So you can, through normal routes, pre-COVID, apply for a visa without having a job offer. But the process is a little bit more lengthy, probably takes about 9 months usually to get that visa approved. However, through the pandemic, the critical health worker shortage, we had to apply for a special exemption just to get into the country. And now that we're here, we then apply for the typical long-term visas. So we just sent those applications off a couple of days ago, waiting to hear back on those. Data here is a speedier process, so it should go by faster, but it is doable. And the website, Immigration New Zealand's website, is very informative, very clear, and gives you all of the information you need, what requirements you need to meet, what paperwork needs to be submitted, the fees, the typical time frame for turnaround. All of that information is available online. And also you can call New Zealand's immigration department and I found them to be extremely helpful. I remember one day being on the phone with one woman for about 45 minutes with my list of questions, because I am a list maker, and she was very patient the whole time. I'm sure they were getting a million phone calls and probably still are, but she was very patient with me and walked me through all of my questions and answered them to the best of her ability. And so that was one of the first introductions we really had to New Zealand, in conversing with someone between her and the recruiter at the district health board, who helped to bring me on with a job position, and just found that people were very friendly and willing to help and kind, and that it was genuine.
Man, this listening to you speak, I got a business idea now.
Yeah.
I think people need help getting into different countries. I mean, I call Sil, listen, we get this form together, put it on the internet, pay a fee, we'll take care of you. Anyway.
Yep.
So we went through the process of figuring out where you want to go. We talked about the visa. Let's talk. Go ahead.
Let me add to that. I just want to add something. The reason why we chose New Zealand. So we gave you the list of things, but the reason we chose New Zealand, that happened because of the pandemic. When we start looking at the way each country or different countries responded to the pandemic, New Zealand was by far the best when responding to the actual pandemic. I think even as we speak today, they're at level 1, so which means that their whole community is open. They haven't had a coronavirus, community transmission over the past 2 weeks, and they and prior to that, they isolated, traced, and
they shut down.
They shut down early.
They shut down hard.
And they shut down hard.
Even when we shut down in the U.S., even when was this, like late March, early April, most states were in some state of shutdown. We still only shut down about 50%. But New Zealand really implemented some very strict measures and shut down, and they implemented it early on, so that they had to shut down for, I think, a period of 7 weeks before they were able to relax the standards and progress along the levels that they had designed. And so with that very quick response, they had even reached a point of over 100 days with no community transmission. So they've been very successful with the response. Just as Stan referenced a couple of weeks ago, they did have some people, I think it was through the border. I'm not sure if they traced it exactly to the initial person, but they were able to, again, get the virus under control by contacting and isolating, contact tracing, excuse me. And so we were just extremely impressed with that, as well as all the other things we've heard about the country. Number 2 safest country in the world, very strong economy, very strong politically, and not a lot of civil or social unrest. We're also concerned about countries that have been previously colonized. And I think outside of maybe 5 countries in the world, every other country at some point had been colonized. So the majority of countries fall in this category, but we wanted to make sure that the indigenous population was treated with respect. We recognize that racism is everywhere, and that in different places, the target, the community or the group who are the oppressed is going to vary and change. And while we may not be the target of oppression because maybe there just aren't enough Black people in the country, we wanted to make sure that the oppressed group was somehow being recognized and addressed. And New Zealand is still making efforts to right wrongs and to address the oppression of the Maori population. And they still face some of the same things that we do as Black Americans in the U.S., where statistically overrepresented in the more impoverished socioeconomic level, and maybe worse outcomes when it comes to medical health and things along those lines. But we have found that in New Zealand, the government has recognized that they are trying to actively make amends for it and seek to give something along the lines of reparations to the Maori people. And that's something that was very important to us and meaningful to us as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. You just talked about how they shut down and they don't have a lot of community spread in terms of the coronavirus. And I think we've talked about this before, Stan, on the happy hour. The one thing in the U.S., we feel as though we have the right to do whatever we want. And the government shouldn't be able to tell me what to do. And then also we don't have good leadership. I mean, I think they had the president of Singapore on 60 Minutes this was like back in March or April. And they said, how are you able to keep the numbers so low? He said, well, as soon as we heard something that was coming out of China, we shut down the borders. And of course, we already had people in the air. So as you came into the airport, we tested everybody. If you were sick, you went to this hotel over here, or you went to the hospital. If you weren't sick, we sent you over here and still quarantined you. Then we did contact tracing. And I'm like, man, that's what a leader is supposed to sound like. You know what I mean? And we don't really have that here. But anyway, I'm not trying to get in all that. But, that'll take us down to the rabbit hole, right? But it sounds like New Zealand definitely has their act together. And when the powers that be say, hey, we need to shut down so that we can make sure we keep the community safe, the people listen, then that's important.
Yes, people listen. They're supportive. It's very much more community oriented from what we hear. And they were able to do it successfully. And of course, just like every other economy, it was hurtful at first, but now their economy is able to rebound and recover much more quickly because they're able to continue to open and shut down like we're doing in the U.S. because we've got all these peeing sections in the swimming pool where you've got clusters of cases popping up and resurging over and over, which will continue to happen until we have some good leadership in place. Yeah, when we arrived here, I mean, we immediately went through health screening, temperature checks, from there, immigration, customs. As a family with young children, they fast-forwarded us to the beginning of the lines to help expedite the process for us. We had been on a 13-hour flight, so thankfully they recognized how hard that is for young children.
And everybody was so welcoming and just pleasant, and it's good to feel that when you come into a country that you know nothing about. It's good to have that that warm embrace, so to speak, so you feel comfortable when you get here. I mean, right now we're at the Crown Plaza, right downtown Auckland, and all our meals, they take care of all your meals, and so they really take care of you. They really roll out the red carpet. And I was telling Sylvia before, they didn't just come up with this on the fly. You already know that the leadership had planned for this type of incident, because it seems, and this is just my thought, just because of how efficient they are, that this is something that was already prepared and planned for, because a pandemic isn't anything new. It's not like this state-of-the-art thing that just happened. It's something that has happened in the past, and we all, as a strong leader, should know that it could potentially happen in the future. So it's better to be, proactive than reactive. Right. And this is something that I saw them prepared, and they were ready, and they addressed it properly.
And when we talk about the kindness and the rolling out of the red carpet, it's not just those in the hospitality sector. So not just those who are here at the hotel, but the immigration officers, the customs officers, the security at the airport, you can tell. And then here at the hotel, there are members of the various branches of the military here helping with the response, because we have to get COVID tested while we're here at the hotel. And, they even are very kind to us as well. And so, I mean, just striking up conversations from 6 foot distance with the mask on, of course. But
a little different, huh?
Yeah. You have these types of experiences in the United States for sure, but it's much fewer and farther between. Yeah. It's not almost every interaction is more the exception than it is the rule. And so it's just not something that we're accustomed to as a Black couple or a Black family. And it's really a breath of fresh air.
Okay. Let's talk about the kids. How are the kids adjusting to this change? I know we haven't talked about it, but you guys were in Hawaii for a month, I believe, before
Yes.
on lockdown, of course, over there, and then you come here and you're on lockdown again. How are they doing? How are they adjusting to the different changes in cultures and stuff?
Kids are doing great. I mean, with our kids, we sit down and we have conversations and we talk to them. We don't sugarcoat what goes on in the world. I mean, we give them age appropriate information. But any decisions that we make sure that we talk to them and explain to them the decisions that we're thinking about doing, get their vote on it, and just the reasons why we're taking these decisions moving forward. So the kids, they've been enjoying it because, like you said, we were in Hawaii for 2 months. We did that because we're comfortable. We used to live in Hawaii for 3 years. We have friends in Hawaii, and Hawaii had better leadership when it came down to the COVID response. Because once March came, we were isolated. We didn't contact anybody. We didn't come in close. We had all our food delivered. We just wanted to make sure that not only did we protect our family, but we weren't contributing to the spread of the disease in our community. So we wanted to make sure we did our part to keep ourselves safe as well as everybody else. But as we saw, Florida started to spike up and people weren't really respecting science and the protocol. So we decided, hey, let's get out of Florida for a little while since everything is remote anyway. So we decided to go to Hawaii for 2 months. They loved it. They loved it because even though Hawaii, we isolated, we were still able to go to the beaches. Before they actually shut down, we went to the zoo, which even when we went to the zoo in Hawaii, they had it. I mean, they were so organized as far as making sure all families stayed together and apart. And they did their part as far as making sure that you did the right thing to keep everybody safe. And so our 2 months in Hawaii, even though we were under isolation there as well, wasn't as restricted as we were in Florida because we were afraid to go out in Florida because
self-imposed restrictions.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we were afraid to go out in Florida because we knew that people in Florida, that it didn't seem like people were respecting the science. And even when we went out in Hawaii, we still stayed away. And when we went to the beach, we found our own little section on the beach and we didn't come in contact with anybody and we kept our distance and we followed the laws and the guidelines that they implemented in Hawaii. So
we felt much more comfortable venturing out after we finished our 14-day isolation than we did in Florida.
And to go back to the kids, so, of course, they enjoyed that. They enjoyed the time in Hawaii and we talked to them because, we have Trey, who's our oldest, he's going into 8th grade. Makai's going into 6th grade. Jasmine's going into 3rd grade. And then we have a 3-year-old. So we talked to them because, especially the 6th grade and 8th grader, we knew that leaving their friends was going to be a huge challenge for them, around that time, because I've done it. I moved around a lot as I was younger. So I know leaving your friends at a school during your middle school and high school potential years can be a difficult transition. But what I also told him, I was like, look, I said, everywhere we go somewhere, I know somebody. That's because unfortunately, I moved around a lot, but I also made more friends everywhere I went. So I kind of put it in their mind frame, like this is an adventure. And we're going to be on this adventure together as a family. And also I was hesitant about homeschooling because I'm like, no, man, they need to go to school. They need to get out this. But the more I looked into homeschooling, the more I started to look into what they're learning at school and some of the challenges that we face with the information that was being, given or taught to our children. I was like, you know what? I think, I was on board with her. She said, I can do it. I just want to homeschool. I said, all right, fine. It took a while for me to get there, but I got there like, all right, let's do it.
You see a pattern?
Yeah. Happy wife, happy life. I know.
No, I'm just not always ready to just jump off. I got to get my own research. Look, I don't trust anybody's own research but my own. I do love you and trust you. But I still got to do my own research and come to my own conclusion as far as, and we were able to tailor their homeschooling to, just different history. Like they learned about the Hawaiian culture. They learned about the New Zealand culture. They do math. They read a lot. I was able to implement stocks and I showed them how to kind of like navigate the stock market. And the day after I did that, the 3 oldest wanted to put their money together and start an investment group. They want to invest in
familiar.
Yeah, exactly. So and it's stuff like that we can control the information that's being given to our children, the information that's going to be effective and helpful once you move on, like entrepreneurship. We both own our own businesses. And I want them to be able to understand that there's nothing wrong with working for anybody, but you don't have to, and also different cultures. I grew up so much just being around the culture and the history of our people in America that I really didn't, it took a lot for me to understand like the different cultures, and that kind of liberates you when you go to a different place and you see the treatment that you can receive. Like sometimes I feel like a friend of mine said to me the other day, it's like, yeah, we're tolerated in America, but we're celebrated in other countries, as African Americans. And I saw a post online, I was reading an article how I think it was the president of Ghana, just the simple things like, hey, come back home. And that kind of resonated with me. You know what I'm saying? So, come on, I don't want to go off a topic as far as what you asked. So, as far as the kids, we're able to, educate them and be involved in their learning, so we can help guide them. So when they do start to branch off on their own, we've given them all the information, all the tools that they need to succeed. All they have to do is just execute. So they are excited.
I will say that our oldest son was probably the one who expressed the most hesitation.
Yes, he did.
And
of course.
It's probably partly related to his age, and that as you get older, it's a little bit harder to make friends. Kids tend to already kind of have their cliques or have their friend groups. But also kind of speaks to his personality. He's also like not really the kind who likes roller coasters or
not too adventurous.
Not as adventurous, but we recognize that about him, and we recognize that each one of our children is unique and individuals, and we try to provide a lot of reassurance, letting him see lots of pictures of New Zealand. The reason why we decided to learn more about the Maori culture and about the history of New Zealand was one, for their education, but two, also for helping with the transition and helping them to be more comfortable with this. And then we talk with our children about racism. We talk with them about politics and what's happening in America. And we, again, do it at an age-appropriate level, and we do it respectfully. We let them know that those police officers are good police officers, but you do have some who went into the profession because they are power hungry, or you have some who aren't as well trained, who can make split-second decisions based on implicit bias. And we explain what implicit bias is. And so we try to frame it in a sense where they're not walking around just in fear all the time, but where they can recognize that there is relative levels of danger in different areas, and that there are some countries where the risk is much lower, and that helped to kind of inform our decision for why we wanted to move to another country. So again, we just try to provide a lot of reassurance, a lot of opportunity for him to be able to express to us how he's feeling. We do that with one-to-one time. Sometimes he'll be able to sit one-to-one with us, sometimes one-to-one with me. And it's really something important to do with all of your children, is to talk with them, hear what they feel and what they're thinking, to take those things into consideration before making such a big, huge, life-changing decision. And then once you do make that decision, you want to help them understand your rationale, because then they learn how to think and how to process information and make decisions for themselves in their lives too. And then to help them each individually with their own level of comfort or discomfort, and try to make it as smooth of a transition as possible, recognizing that there are going to be some bumps along the way, but we look at that as character building opportunities, and again, ways that we can help them to learn how to face challenges and obstacles that they will encounter in life.
Hey, hey Stan, how are you? Are you speaking into a phone or something?
No, it's with computer. I mean, yeah, we're doing computer speakers and stuff. We're limited. We got limited resources over here.
Okay, because
So
when Syl's talking, she's not as loud as you are. So
Oh, maybe because I'm further back. Okay.
Alright.
yeah,
And I'm on the soft
we don't want to
Yes.
we don't want to lose all these gems. You know what I mean? Don't worry. In post production, I'll get you mic'd up, so don't worry about it. Awesome. So, what's the plan moving forward?
So we're on day 6 of isolation. So we've got 8 more days to go. We've already got our plane tickets booked from Auckland to Wellington. So Wellington, New Zealand is where we'll be living.
Okay.
Wellington is the country of New Zealand. So New Zealand is composed of over 600 islands, but there are 2 main islands, the North Island and South Island. Wellington is on the southern border of the North Island. So it's right on the water. Windy Wellington, the windiest city of the world. I've continued my private practice in Orlando, where I have a couple of psychiatrists who are independent contractors who work for me, as well as a licensed mental health counselor. And then Stan's brother is our full-time admin person, and he's just outstanding. We wouldn't be able to do this without him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stan's continuing his law practice, and my sister is an attorney, licensed attorney in Florida, and so she's working with him. And again, we would not be able to do this without her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great that we have those practices going, because psychiatrists don't get paid as much in New Zealand. And so it helps us to be able to continue to generate income and be able to try to build financial wealth for our children, and to be able to pass on generationally. And I'll be working in a position in Wellington as a child psychiatrist with their district health board down there as an outpatient psychiatrist. I think it's quite interesting. They really provide strong wraparound services here. There aren't as many psychiatrists, but they do work together in teams with social workers, case managers, and therapists, or at least I've heard. I've not experienced just yet, but they can even pick up patients and bring them to their appointments, and help them with finding housing, help them with finding jobs. We've even seen here, when we were ordering some groceries online, that they had a saying that the only hunger a child should experience is a hunger for learning. So I bring that up to say that it's not just a responsibility that the government feels, but even private entities such as this grocery store. They delivered books to us here on our second day. Educational materials, textbooks for each child, and it's age appropriate. It was level 9, or year 9, which will be 8th grade for Trey. And so each of our kids have materials to keep them educated while they're here in the hotel. There's other material that we got about the managed isolation that talks about helping folks with housing. If once they finish the 14-day isolation and they don't have any place to stay, work opportunities as well. And so it's just so reassuring that it's not just about providing for those who already have, that there's really a focus on making sure that everyone has their basic human needs met, which is something that I feel is the mentality that we need to have worldwide, that everybody deserves to have a house to live in. Everybody deserves to have food on their table and quality health care. These are basic human rights and needs. And those who don't have it aren't there because they're lazy or because they deserve to be, or, well, they just should have done this or done that. It's really a result of very real problems, systemic problems, such as racism, that unfortunately racism created those problems. And then when you see the outcome of racism, you try to use that to justify the racism in and of itself, to say, yeah, Black people are less intelligent or this or that. And it's absolutely untrue. And the evidence that you're looking to support that is really evidence of what racism has done to our community, and not to support that races have biological differences.
And just to follow up and I guess kind of make sure we answer your question as well, is that where we're going from here? I don't know. Look, all I'm saying is that he asked what's the plan?
Oh, I did. I really
Syl, Listen, this is my show. I think I said this on the very first episode we had. This is my show. You can just say whatever you want. It's all good.
Lord. I just want to make sure we
about as bad as Trump with my tangential going left.
No,
but
you spot on.
it's day 6. We're here for 14-day quarantine. We've already taken one COVID test since we've been here. Everybody's been negative. We got one more before we leave. So after that, we're going to fly to Wellington, like she said. She has a position that she starts second week in November. The kids, because they do quarter systems here, so I think they go to school all year round. And we're coming up on their summer year. So we're in the southern hemisphere, so the summer is about to, we're about to be into the summer. So the kids will start school, I believe, the second, I think they start school pretty recently,
Hopefully
right?
the end of this month.
End of this month, okay.
We just have to wait for those other visas that I
Once we get the other visas, the kids will start school, so they'll be in school, because like I said, everything is open here. So the kids are back in school, and thank goodness, because I need that. I need that break. So the kids will be in school, and we're just going to try it out. She's going to be working. I'm still going to be managing my practices, doing what I need to do via Zoom or virtual meetings or hearings or mediations. So we're just taking it one step at a time, and hopefully we'll have the visas that we want to stay a little longer, and we'll reevaluate it as we watch what the. Hold on one second. Sorry, I told you.
It's okay.
It's okay.
No,
So
it was interesting when Syl was talking. I was trying to find this list real quick. That's why I was looking away. They did a study, and they listed the countries by how much they spend of their GDP on education, on healthcare, the military, like all these different statistics. And we talk about Singapore all the time. Like Singapore was near the top in terms of spending on education. Denmark and Norway, Iceland, New Zealand, all those guys were at the top when it comes to the stuff that we should be spending money on. And there was only one area where the United States was number one, and that was military. You know what I mean? So it kind of just shows you what we put, what
we cherish,
prioritize here in this country versus what everybody else prioritizes. You know what I mean? So
you're absolutely right. So our plan is, like I said, just to take it one day at a time, man. And try to find, and this is what I always tell myself. I'm looking for somewhere we can call home. When grandma's house back in the day, I know used to be home where all my cousins and stuff go to. Syl's mom and dad's house. When we go there, we feel home over in Royal Palm Beach, Florida. So we're always trying, but I've always attached home to a location, and I really kind of want to change that and attach it. And that's why I tell my kids, where we are is where we're going to consider home. Where we get the love, where we're welcomed and stuff like that. So, I want to feel somewhere where I feel connected to, I guess either whether it's that area, that country, but really to the people, and we've even, like, New Zealand was something because they did right with the COVID. She was able to get in. We were, and God was working things in our manner.
About to say,
just to,
in this journey.
He has been laying things out for us, that put us at where we are today. However, I don't know if New Zealand's going to be the end all be all, because recently I've have a certain affinity with going back to Africa. You know what I'm saying? And I've always, even over this past pandemic, I've really been focusing on trying to educate ourselves as well as our children with our history. Like, just because I'm leaving America, we have a lot of history in America that I think that they need to know. I mean, over the summer, they've read Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. They got Frederick Douglass and W.B. Du Bois that they're working on now. We've shown movies, watched movies, and we have movie night, and I want to make sure that I show all, like, the prominent Black movies, because I still want them to have pride in who they are, but we can still venture out to another place where I don't know where it could be New Zealand where we actually feel at home.
No, this computer screen.
Why am I shaking it too much?
You get passionate over there, and then we get the wobbling.
Listen, if we was face to face, I know your hands would be going. I know how it is.
But so we're trying to continue to move and to make decisions that's going to be best and beneficial for our kids. All of this is because of our kids.
All of it.
All of it's because of our kids. If I didn't have 4 kids, we'd probably still be in America right now, unfortunately, trying to, fight the good fight. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, it's like, me personally, and I don't know, it might sound bad, but I don't feel as if the country is worth putting my kids' lives at risk. You understand what I'm saying? And when I really had that switch, that change, like, you know what, we might need to go somewhere for a little while, is when we had a conversation. I remember Leon said he was going to get a gun. Me and her actually agreed, look, I think it's time to get a gun. When I made that determination, I was like, I cannot honestly say that I want to be in a country where I feel like I have to have a gun in order to feel safe and protected. Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm a true believer. Guns don't make you safe, And I've without talking too much, I've been around them, and they don't make you safe. Okay, and I don't want to be in an environment or in a country where that is what's important and what you have to do or what you should do in order for you to feel safe.
We know, if anything, it elevates the risk. It escalates the risk. It takes things to a higher level. Mm-hmm. And I think it's understandable if you do not have the option to leave the country. I definitely get it, because if a civil war breaks out, if anarchy breaks out, if there's further chaos, those who have guns are going to be at an advantage over those who don't, unfortunately. But it's just not something that jives well with our spiritual beliefs or with who we are as people. And, as Christians, we're taught, well, if someone smites one cheek, I don't know if smite is the word, but it just sounds so...
Sounds like it fits in the moment.
So biblical when you're supposed to turn and, let them smite the other. So, I
haven't been too good with that, but...
Some behind you, because got the glare going. You're trying to get out. That's good. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways,
I gotta have 1080p, man, when I put this up on YouTube. And people ain't gonna watch it.
So we don't fault anybody else's decisions. You have to do what you feel is best to protect you and your family and keep your family safe. But this is what we felt was right for us and what we felt God was leading us to. I don't know if we told you, but beginning of July, we had bought tickets to go to Portugal. Things looked like they were getting better. It looked like we were coming out of that first wave, and it was a matter of trying to battle competing interests. So we can stay here in the U.S. where we are at risk, where there is civil unrest, social unrest, the political unrest, or we can battle this COVID on this recirculated airplane and try to, go to Portugal and check it out and see if this might be a place for us to put down some roots. But God had other plans. Flight got canceled. Flight got changed a couple times, and it just got canceled altogether because, of course, the EU decided not to allow Americans, because we could see that at this point, the second wave was not, the first wave was not going away. We were not going into a second wave. We were still very much in the midst of that first wave.
I don't blame them either.
Yeah. So when he gave me the go ahead, and actually this was the second time he said go ahead and apply for a position in New Zealand. He had said it in the spring at some point, because I just kept bothering him. He's like, fine, just go ahead and apply then.
I drinking.
I didn't want to go through with it, because I'm like, no, that's a lot of paperwork. I'm not doing that paperwork if he's not sure about it, because that's a whole lot of time that's wasted. But in July, when he said go ahead, by that point, I knew that he would support us relocating, at least temporarily, while the pandemic is going on. But we'll just have to see how things go, because although I'm confident with this upcoming election that Biden is going to win and that we're going to see a change for the better. We recognize that.
Look, she didn't see my eyes when she said Biden was going to win. Like
cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously,
Okay.
I might have been
Yeah.
with the word confident, but
Yeah.
because I was confident in 2016 too.
I wasn't.
So
Yeah, I
I was
know.
also very naive.
Yep.
But anyways, we know that the presidency and the executive branch of the government is just one branch, and that you also have to have laws change, and that you have to have mentalities change, and the execution of the laws and how they're enforced and interpreted. And so, with racism being so deep in the fabric of the United States, even with the change of leadership for the positive, it's still going to be several years, several decades before we see real change that's not going to be damaging to the way that my children think about themselves. And so, we may be back. We may be back next year. We may be back some years after that. I don't know. We'll just see where God leads us. We continue to pray every day and just ask that we align our wills with what God's will is and do what it is that he wants us to and try to. That's why we're on this call with you today, because I know you've been trying to get me on here for a while, and now that I'm on here, I can't shut my mouth. But
I try to tell you, I said, Sil, once you get on, it's gonna be all good. It's like we're sitting across the table talking. It's all good.
Sitting across the table talking, but we're probably 11,000 miles away over some oceans and continents.
I know. I was talking to Stanley the other day. I said, "Yo, what's the time difference?" And I'm thinking 8-9 hours. Was it 12, 16 or something like that? He was like, "It's already Monday, bro." I'm like, "Oh." Yeah.
Watching football Sunday.
I know. It's a lot of changes and stuff that I got to adapt to. Like my football Sundays are here no more. It's football Mondays now. And like it's Friday for us, and like Thursday night. It's not even Thursday night. It's Friday morning football, Friday afternoon football. So
wow.
So it's a lot of different changes, man, that's going on that I got to adapt to. But it's something that, like I said, we're making this journey to support and protect our family. There was I think Sil, I don't know if you talked to somebody in one of your groups or whatever, but there was a lady whose family was from Germany, and they were saying how her father's family got out. Her father or grandfather got out, but his siblings weren't able to get out of the country in time.
She said her grandmother and her grandfather were the only ones who survived the Holocaust, and they had at least 4 or 5 siblings each. And so, of course, those who have survived the Holocaust were the ones who were able to continue their legacy and have children and grandchildren. So the stories that we get today are from people who were fortunate enough to escape those atrocities or maybe endured it but survived it. And we hope that what's happening in our country right now is not even close to that scale. But there are people that we've conversed with, whether through social media or other avenues, who are from countries that were war-torn, that were ran by dictators. And they talk about how everything was great until it wasn't. And it's not something that it kind of happens gradually over time, but it's like the next day is just like, wow, how did we get here? Where are we now? We're living in this country that's being dominated by a dictator, and people who support him in racist or terrible beliefs. So we just pray every day. We pray for our family. We pray for our country. We pray for our leaders. We pray for each other. That people will find that we have much more in common than we do differences, and that really in the end, we are all just trying to protect ourselves and our family. And the best way to do that is by protecting each other and respecting one another and showing each other love and kindness, and not through hatred or violence. So we pray that everyone comes together and works together for a common good for all of humanity.
It's interesting. I think we had a podcast where we talked about this, and somebody made the analogy that it might have been you, Stan, now that I think about it. If aliens came from outer space and landed on the world, and they said they're going to take over, every country in the world will come together to defeat the aliens. But
Common enemy.
but we can't do that now when we should.
Yeah. I thought the pandemic was going to do it. I thought that common enemy was going to be that microscopic coronavirus. But
takes leadership. It takes leadership.
Absolutely.
It does. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And attitude reflects leadership. And we see the attitude in America is really starting to reflect the leadership of our president. And unfortunately, we have so many more people that believe in science, that believe in unity, that believe in equality, and that wants to do away with racism and oppression, that, but it's being overrun by our leadership, and it's not being respected, and it's a problem, and that's one of the reasons why, and once again, one of the reasons why we are where we are today, and it's just an attempt to make sure that we, one, protect our children and provide a safe environment and a nurturing environment for them, but also give them other things to explore different cultures and stuff without losing who you are, but the more people that you experience, the more cultures that you are involved with, the more you can understand and, their community and bring what you have into that community as well. And that way, you're just more diverse, and more accepting and understanding. Like, I think me and Leon, we talked about this before. When you go to different countries, people might look at us like crazy, but it's not the look that we get here in America. It's the look of, the unknown. Like, man, I've never seen, it could be I've never seen a Black person before. You never know, African American,
right.
And
because I used to live in Japan, and that's the kind of look I would get all the time. It was people who had, outside of television, had never seen a person with brown skin before. And so you would definitely get stares, but they were stares of curiosity and interest, not stares of scorn or disdain.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of traveling myself, Brazil, Singapore, all over the place, going by myself. And people just take a liking to me, and you don't deal with the same things that you would deal with here, where you can go, there's places in America, better not go if you're not supposed to be there. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but listen, this has been awesome. I think people are going to get a different perspective on a couple and the family as a whole moving somewhere, and especially with COVID going on, and just get a different perspective on living outside the country. And I know my family, we've looked into leaving the United States for some of the similar reasons you guys have. And there are other people that have been asking me like, yo, when's that pod coming? When's that pod coming? I'm like, it's coming, don't worry about it. It's coming. And people want to hear this story. And they probably have the same concerns, the same wishes that you guys have. So I think this will be really informational for them. Oh, and by the way, go ahead.
No, I was just to touch on that, and we get those people that support us. We also get those people like, hey, there's no other utopia. You're not going to find a utopia. There's racism, oppression everywhere. And of course, we know there's not a utopia, but there's definitely a better place of living for us as African Americans, that we don't have to experience or to continue to endure a country that's riddled with racism, oppression since the beginning, since it was. I can't say its inception because before it was colonized. Since its colonization, because people were here way before they were colonized. Right. So and this is we're dealing with and still trying to peel back age-old layers of racism, and it's tiresome. So there's no need to those people who are like, well, there's no utopia. You're gonna find stuff everywhere. We understand that, but there's also there are other countries out there that are a better place to live for you and your family if you have that opportunity. Because there are more people out there, there are countries out there that are welcoming, that accept that, as my friend says, that congratulate or what's the word I was using before, that celebrate us as far as who we are, instead of just tolerate and dealing with, saying the way we are, who we are in America.
And I know we're trying to wrap up, but I just want to piggyback on that point, because it's something that I've noticed as kind of a pattern on a lot of social media, like basically Facebook groups that I'm a part of, whether physician Facebook groups or homeschooling or moms groups, where there have been a lot of questions from people wanting to inquire about moving overseas or expressing an interest or a desire to leave the country. And I've found a lot of responses from African American people have been, don't leave, no, stay and fight, stay and fight. And I get that because that was by far Stan's most, his biggest desire to stay in the U.S. and not move overseas was a sense of like guilt about leaving everyone else behind. And we had to really like come to terms with that and come to grips with that, because I think that even though oftentimes you'll hear African Americans talk about other African Americans as being crabs in a bucket and not supporting one another, I don't think that's actually true. I think we actually feel a very strong sense of identity and community. Of course, I can't speak for all African Americans, but I feel like especially those who have done well, who have been able to make it out of poverty or attain some level of wealth or education, feels very much responsible for helping those who are still struggling, whether it's family members or just people of the African American or African diaspora as a whole. And, I definitely get that. I've felt it as well. We have felt it as well. And over time, we thought, well, our responsibility is to our 4 children. First and foremost, we got to protect them. Mm-hmm. But yes, we do not want to leave others behind. And we felt maybe through our experience and through talking with you today, Leon, we might be able to help influence other families who feel that same hesitation, because maybe we can help others to feel emboldened and to find a future for themselves in a place where they are not oppressed. Mm-hmm. And that our ancestors who were brought to the country forcefully and against their will would absolutely want us to have the freedom to choose to live wherever we wanted to. And many of them would probably say, get the heck up out of here. Mm-hmm. Where their blood was spilled. So, we still feel connected to our community, to our country, where we still want to help those who are impoverished, mm-hmm. those who are trying to attain an education, those who are struggling by acting as mentors, mm-hmm. and
taxes.
Providing mm-hmm. taxes. Yeah, absolutely. We are definitely taxed high. Mm-hmm. We're in a higher tax bracket, yep. But we are okay with that.
I'm okay.
We are okay with our government using that monies and those resources to help people who are impoverished and who are less fortunate, who don't have adequate housing, don't have adequate health care, don't have access to food, mm-hmm. And resources like mental health resources, whose communities need to be uplifted. And so
we still feel a sense of responsibility to our community. Absolutely. There, a strong sense of responsibility. So we're going to continue to do what we can. But our responsibility to our children far outweighs our responsibility to anybody else. And that's just the way it is. And where our main goal is to remove them from that oppressive or that, belittling state, the stuff that we face in America. So we want to make sure that we give them the best chance to move forward and have a positive self-esteem, positive sense of self, and can maneuver through the world without having that reservation of they're not as good or, so.
And I'll just speak to one more point on that. And it's a study. I wish I could reference specifically what article it was that I read, but it was a study that had supported resources, came from an unbiased source. And these are things that you want to look at when you're reading articles or material. You need to make sure that you're getting sound information. But it showed that African American males, far greater than any other demographic, have the likelihood, whether their parents attain wealth or not, to slide back into poverty. So even if their parents were able to make it to middle class or upper class, the likelihood is that their next generation, and even greater likelihood the generation after that, was going to slide back into poverty. And this happened at a much higher rate for African American males than it did for African American females, or for Caucasian males, Caucasian females, and other counterparts. And so that really resonated with me, that, man, I can work so hard and try to parent so well and try to build wealth for my children. But inevitably, because of systemic racism and the pervasiveness of that racism through our society, those damaging effects will ultimately lead to my progeny, whether it's my children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren, sliding back into poverty. And we know along with that, because there's nothing wrong, right, with not being wealthy. That's fine. It's what all comes along with that. It's not being able to live in a safe community, or not being able to have access to the same healthcare, or not being able to have access to the same educational opportunities, or higher rates of violence or domestic violence and crime. And so, it's those associated factors that it was really disheartening to hear that the system works. The system as it has been built works and will continue to work. And that, for me, was the straw that broke the camel's back and made me feel like we got to get out of here, because I got to make sure that my kids, my grandchildren, my children, generations from now, have the opportunity to live their best lives. And we'll talk about climate change on another talk.
I just want to touch on something real quick, because you said that we went down this path because you said that there is a section of the people that probably are wondering why you're leaving. And I was trying to find it real quick, but there is a study out there, or a census, that says that I think it's only like maybe 15 or 20% of people move away from where they grew up. So moving out of the country is a whole nother layer on top of that. It's probably even less than, I know it's a lot less than, I can't find the study. It's like 10-15% of the people.
I believe it.
Those are the people that only move away. Most people, where they're born, where they're raised, that's where they stay. So moving out of the country, they don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah. I think I got that wanderlust gene, so I think that helps me out a little bit. And thankfully, I've got a very open-minded husband here. Very open-minded.
It's slow, but it's open. It opens slow.
You're right on the money. So, and I think I'm more adventurous than most. But if I find myself in a situation where I'm not happy, I'm gonna think a way out of it. That's how I ended up owning a private practice. I could have very easily stayed with the federal government and waited till 65 to retire. But somebody was like, "No, you can do this," and encouraged me. And here we are now, where we have the ability to move overseas and show our children a different way of life.
That's right. Build together. I'm with that.
Make it pretty good.
We are.
Well, listen, I'm so happy you guys came on the pod to kind of discuss your journey and chronicle it. And I know people are going to get some gems out of this one. I mean, we've touched on health. We've touched on, family. We've touched on being an expat outside the country, the process. Oh, one more thing. Who did you guys use to fly over to Hawaii, and who did you use to fly to New Zealand? Was it the same airline?
We I think on United, or was it Delta?
Delta going to Hawaii.
Delta to Hawaii.
And then United going to New Zealand.
So we bought the tickets through United, but the flights were operated by Hawaiian Airlines. We couldn't even fly straight from Hawaii to New Zealand. We had to fly from Hawaii to Los Angeles, which was a 5-hour flight, and then a 13-hour flight from LA to New Zealand.
Because there are normally flights from Hawaii to New Zealand, but because of the COVID, those flights.
Because I was about to say, you're going the opposite direction to go to LA to go fly.
They had to fly back over Hawaii.
Back over Hawaii, just to get.
It was Air New Zealand that we flew from LA to New Zealand.
Okay, so you listen, United, Delta, Air New Zealand, Air Hawaii. We need some reparations to this couple because they making y'all look good. They flew all over the world, 30 plus hours in the air, no COVID, so your air circulation is working. This is a good commercial for y'all, so y'all need to get in contact with them and send them a check.
That's right.
There you go.
But like I said, man, I really appreciate it because I've been trying to get you guys on here so we could talk about this journey because I know me and my wife wanted to hear about it. And we have other people in our group that wanted to hear about this and to see that you guys have navigated that situation successfully. I think more people are going to start to follow in your footsteps, especially if things don't go right in November.
That's another thing. I really didn't want to be in the United States as November 3rd came around.
Yeah, man, so. It's crazy, man. Me and my brother were having this conversation yesterday on the phone, and we were, because he's like, man, you be showing those guns on Instagram a little bit too much, and me, I'm always trying to get deals. I'm like, I can advertise for my man. He gonna cut me a little break, and it's just people are wild now here, man. People are acting real crazy, and
you see the news about the plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan. I'm like, you thinking these jokers are that this stuff is just a figment of our imagination, and so.
Did you hear what they were gonna do? They were gonna set off a couple bombs as a diversion to get the cops away, and then they was gonna kidnap her at her summer home or at her vacation home. Oh, and then they were looking at an overpass on a highway. They were gonna put some explosive underneath the highway. I'm like, yo, that bugging. Straight bugging.
Like I said, don't underestimate the enemy.
We feel empowered with Trump's dog whistling.
Well, you know what? We're not going to turn this into a negative podcast.
Let's go on. On a good note.
Yeah, let's go out on a good note. Once again, hey, listen. Today is October 8th, right? Damn, it's my mom's birthday tomorrow.
It's the ninth for us.
I was just saying tomorrow's my mom's birthday. I'm glad I looked at the date. I don't want to miss that. We should check back in with you guys in a month or two. Once you get moved to what's the place called again? What? Wellington. Thank you. Well, once you move to Wellington and you get situated and really engrossed in the culture and the community and the kids are in school, and then check back in with you and see how that situation is going.
Of course.
I don't see it changing. I just think it's going to get better and better and better as you start to, bond with the people in the community, and I think it's just.
But at least we'll have more information to share, and we can, like I said, share our journey and let people know what to expect if this is something that they could potentially be considering.
Oh, one more question for you. Why have you? Is New Zealand looking at allowing people to come back into the country, or are they waiting for the vaccine before they really open it back up?
Safe. And I can say that they are following scientists and following the epidemiologists and public health experts. So whether that's waiting for a vaccine, I don't know. We don't have to wait for a vaccine. If there were leaders in other countries doing things that we don't have to wait for a vaccine in the U.S. If we implement another shutdown and do it nationwide, and implemented it for several weeks, we could get the numbers low enough where we could actually do contact tracing and isolation, and it would be safer to travel sooner. I don't see that happening until we have a change of leadership in office or until that vaccine comes. Yeah. So, but I do know once they do feel it's safe to open the borders again, they will. And they'll be able to open up all the visa application processes again, so that others can come into the country, because they are very open to immigrants and welcoming immigrants here. So I feel very confident that once it's safe, and they'll be following the science, that they will make avenues to come into the country widely available again.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to getting back in touch with you guys. I mean, Stan, we talk every week on the happy hour and everything, but I can't wait to get back on the Zoom call with you guys in a couple months, and just to see how things are going and check in with you and check in with the kids. And
Thank you.
That's
give the
all.
people more
Yep.
information.
Thanks for giving us a way to chronicle our journey so we
Yep.
can look back over time and see what our thought process was like, and for giving us the opportunity to be able to share what we're doing with others,
Yep.
and hopefully be able to help encourage them.
You know,
any questions or whatever.
my medium is open anytime, Dr. Johnson. I think you have a lot of information, especially now with COVID being here, and all these different negative things in our society have gone up in terms of I'm not even going to bring them up because we end this on a good note, but I think people would love to hear what you got to say. So whenever you're ready, send me, hey Leon, I'm ready. Okay.
I'll just say, wear your mask, folks.
Yep.
Wash your hands. Stay at least 6 feet apart, because now we know that this virus is actually able to spread through airborne transmission too, which means 6 feet is not always going to be enough.
Yep.
Yeah. So even just through regular conversation, someone can exhale particles that can travel greater than 6 feet or linger in the air. So please wear your mask. Please social distance. If you're sick, stay home. Wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. And look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you again for inviting us on the show. It's been great.
I thank you guys for coming on, and let's book the next one.
All right. I'll let you know.
All right, you guys. What time is it there?
About 2:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
2:30
in the afternoon.
All right, well, you guys have a great afternoon, a great evening, and I'll talk to you guys soon.